I'm Tammy Harrison and welcome to Imagination TV, coming to you from the Empire Media Center in Glendale, California. At Imagination TV, we are creating a television network which will inspire, motivate, and entertain you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we are building this network around the world's most fascinating motivators, producers, educators, and authors. There is an author named Simon Sinek who is best known for his powerful model of inspirational leadership, simply called Start With Why. Simon wrote, "People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it." So let me share with you our why. In the world of self-improvement, technology is driving the way people around the world produce, find, obtain, and use self-improvement content. More content than ever is flooding the market because technology has made it possible for anyone to become an author, a coach, a producer, or an innovator. The problem is some extraordinary, important content is becoming lost in the noise as content offerings expand and crowd the marketplace. Our founders felt there needed to be a singular, multimedia accessible point where you can experience the best messages on the planet. A place where people that are true fans and believers in the power of self-improvement content can dig in and find the best of the best delivered to them free of charge, no matter where they are. And that's why we have built Imagination TV in partnership with the world's most fascinating motivators, educators, authors, and producers to deliver inspiration, education, and motivation to help you find your path to success. One of those inspirational shows is coming up next on Imagination TV and is called The Uncommon Denominator, a show that I just also happen to host. The Uncommon Denominator follows Steven Sambliss, a modern-day businessman, on a journey as he meets the highest achievers on the planet with the goal of finding what makes them so successful. Each week, Steven Sambliss will meet a different mogul of business and life to find out with you what makes the highest achievers and the greatest business people succeed. Imagination TV has our mastermind board that will meet with Steve for each show and send him out with an introduction to the business icons. Each week, Steve's unique approach will bring you back another piece of the puzzle found within the moguls he interviews and the traits that stand out within them that are the keys to their greatness. The show will explore the uncommon traits that can be found within all of these high achievers, that thing we call the uncommon denominator. As each episode unfolds, a picture will organically develop showing what made the most successful moguls flourish, who they are, and how you, our viewers, can apply these key traits to your life. And most importantly, we will search for that thread of greatness which may be woven within all these high achievers, that thing we call the uncommon denominator. In our premiere episode, you will meet Chris Majer, a master of transformation. Chris and his team took a fledgling division at AT&T that was losing $250 million a year and turned it around to become the company's biggest division, earning over $3 billion a year. I think that's a great way to kick off the series, don't you? So, thank you for joining us, and please enjoy The Uncommon Denominator. Hello everyone, I'm Tammy Harrison and welcome to Uncommon Denominator, where each week we will take you on a journey to discover what makes the highest achievers and entrepreneurs on the planet succeed. Each week, our research journalist Steven Sambliss will meet with the world's highest achievers and entrepreneurs, looking to find within each the traits that are the key to their greatness. As each episode unfolds, a picture will organically develop of what has made the most successful flourish. We will then show you ways how you can apply the same in your lives. This is a reality show with real people, real moguls, and real icons with real answers. In this premiere episode, Steve sits down with the best-selling author and founder of the Human Potential Project, Chris Majer. Chris Majer is a modern-day entrepreneur, innovator, and adventurer who has trekked the wilds of Africa, Alaska, and the Amazon He's a rugby player with a master degree who has taught hand-to-hand combat to Marines, performance principles to the Special Forces, and leadership, management, strategy, and innovation to the corporate world. Chris has been the principal architect of transformational projects for corporate clients such as AT&T, Microsoft, Intel, EDS, Capital One, Allianz Life of North America. Chris has spent over 2 decades developing innovative and highly effective approaches for enabling organizations of any size to maximize their performance. You may ask why we kick off the series with somebody who is a true master in business. The answer is simple. Over the last several decades, the majority of great personal wealth has been brought about by entrepreneurs. If you can master the skills of today's entrepreneurs effectively, you can create limitless wealth. So, on that note, I will hand it over to Steve as he speaks with Chris Majer on the path to finding the uncommon denominator.
Hey guys, so I'm with Chris Majer on set now. He's the one I was just speaking to you about, but let's let Chris tell you for himself. So Chris, how would I describe what you do? I mean, you're an author, you train corporations. For a long time, you actually work with individuals. So when somebody asks you, what do you do, what do you say?
Well, simply stated, we're in the organizational transformation business, which means that we produce a large amount of change in a short amount of time.
Okay. For big, giant groups, medium-sized groups, what kind of groups do you work with normally?
Well, pretty much everyone. Okay. Our clients have ranged from AT&T and Microsoft and EDS all the way down to little startup companies. So okay. We can do everything in the middle. It just depends on what's the opportunity, is it going to be exciting, and is there some possibility to really make a big difference?
When you're talking about organizational change, I mean, that's a pretty broad statement. Mm-hmm. Where does that tighten up and apply to a direction?
Well, it depends, of course, on what's going on with a particular client, right? Mm-hmm. But in general, what we're looking at is there's been an epical shift in the whole game of business, and frankly, most people have missed it. Right? We've transitioned out of the industrial era, and we're now operating in what we've called the coordination era. So the economy has got a different basis under it and requires a different type of organization. Most companies haven't made the transition, so there's big opportunity for us as we help guide them into what that means in terms of being successful in this new economy.
When I think about management, mm-hmm. I think about Deming and I think about Drucker, who I really enjoy the books that they've written and the things they've written about them. But you're saying that their styles were more, well, they were based on an industrial economy.
Their work was, of course, brilliant and mm-hmm. shifted the way that we do business, but as you noted, it was the way we do business inside the industrial era. Mm-hmm. Right? And the challenge that we're facing is we're no longer in the industrial era. This is the coordination era. In the industrial era, the value generators were factory workers, right? In those days, work meant the manipulation of some material. You made mm-hmm. something or you grew something, and work was physical labor, right? Okay. And what we think of as modern management practices were all invented by guys who were born in the 1800s. And they were designed to be effective for Henry Ford mm-hmm. and the early emerging industrial sector. Flash forward 100 years, right? We're not in the industrial era anymore, okay? Mm-hmm. The industrial sector is maybe 15% of our economy, right? The value generators today are not factory workers, and that's not to say they're not valuable, but the real value generators are what we call coordination workers, right? Okay. These are people who are educated, they're agile, they're mobile, they're creative, they're innovative, they're problem solvers, right? And they generate value not by making things, but by their effective coordination with each other to take care of customer concerns. Okay. How do we effectively coordinate? How do we mobilize with each other? How do we take care of our customers faster than the competitors can take care of theirs? Right? That requires a completely different type of organizational structure, organizational culture, and a different talent base. And as I said earlier, most people have missed that transition and are still stuck in industrial era thinking, and then they're mystified about why we've got only 30 to 60% of people engaged in their work. Innovation is an occasion, it's not a process. Mm. Teamwork is a slogan, it doesn't really happen. And while we're making incremental improvements in productivity, the world is changing at a pace that's calling on transformational change, and we're just continuously lagging.
So what happened for you that you said, okay, I want to look at this from a different direction?
Well, what happened was we spent 25 years working inside of that old game, doing the best we could in terms of our methodology to improve productivity and stuff, and realizing that there was something that we were missing. And it wasn't until I was able to kind of stand back and take not a 10 or 20,000 but 100,000 foot look and go, whoa, what's happened is the whole game has changed, and doing more of what you already know how to do, only harder, faster, with fewer resources, is a strategy for tragedy. It isn't going to work.
Right.
So if we really get that the whole game has changed, then that means we've got to change everything that we're doing. People are, of course, a little reluctant to embrace that notion.
Sure.
Right? Because, as you said, everybody who's in business today, every business school, all the consultants have all been trained and schooled, whether they did it formally or not, in industrial era thinking and practices.
That's what we're educated in, of course.
Exactly.
That's why I know Deming. That's why I know Drucker.
Yeah, and if you didn't even need to go to business school to learn that, because the guy who had the job before you and taught you how to do it, that's what he or she did.
So when you go to a company and you are wanting to say to them the reason that you are different on your approach, well, how do you approach a company?
Well, a number of different ways, but essentially we engage with conversation with the senior level executives about, you know, in short, what's missing, right? Each of them has got their own dissatisfaction, no matter how well the company's doing or how poorly.
Like, what is an example of dissatisfaction? What will you hear?
Well, let's say we can't mobilize action very effectively. It takes us too long to get anything done. We're not very good at innovation.
From the point we have an idea to the point it comes to market, there's too
long.
And by the time it gets there, we have another innovation that should...
Exactly.
Okay.
Our whole developmental cycle just really takes way too long. So that's a whole issue that a lot of companies are facing.
Okay.
We don't coordinate very well. We talk about teamwork, but we don't really do it. We've got people operating in silos. We've got distrust or mistrust in the organization. And the list just goes on and on. It's, you know, the same set of issues that have been plaguing organizations forever. The dilemma is, since the game's changed, the solutions that used to work don't work anymore. But let's look. The current business sense says when something isn't working, there's really kind of four basic solutions that we do.
Okay.
The knee-jerk is cost cutting, right? So you get some guy comes in, that's the first thing they try and do is cut costs. And then we try reorganization. All right, well, so let's restructure things. Well, that's never going to produce much value. And the reason is simple, because almost universally, when people reorganize, they don't do it by any real legitimate design principles. They do it based on personality and politics. And so while this restructuring is going on, everybody in the organization keeps their head down, they're kind of waiting to see who's going to win.
Right.
And then after it's done, it takes months to figure out how you actually get anything done inside the new structure. And just about the time you get that figured out, we do it again.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
Well, then we try innovative deployments of technology. Now, there used to be an advantage to be had in that, but not anymore.
Now, that would be getting new computer systems?
New computer systems.
New communication systems?
Communication systems, enterprise management systems.
Okay.
You know. Now, the dilemma here is 15, 20 years ago, that could have provided a competitive advantage, but today, technology is ubiquitous. And so you think, well, then what we need is a unique strategy. Well, the problem now is the world's flat. Information is universally available. So any information that you use to craft your strategy is available to everybody else. And for the most part, inside of your competitive space, everybody's following the same strategy. There's not any big difference.
That's right.
Between what, you know, Ford and GM and Toyota are doing.
Yeah.
Right? So that's not it. So the only answer is winners are going to be the ones who can consistently mobilize their people faster and more effectively to implement their strategy.
But their strategy, if it's based on those four things, that doesn't work anyhow. So the strategy's got to change.
Strategy's got to change, yes, all right, but in the end, it's who can mobilize faster, who can coordinate. How do you get the friction out of the organization so our people can mobilize much faster than the other guys?
So the outlook looks pessimistic to me, because everything you've said of the four things that are the main things people do, they all don't work.
They all don't work.
So you're either doing well if you're using old management techniques and you keep doing okay, or you just go down and die.
Well, that's what happens is companies kind of slowly grind into irrelevance as they miss the opportunity to really transform themselves. Some of it happens quickly, some of it not so quickly. But you're right in that if we just keep doing these same old things, we're going to keep getting the same results, and those results are not going to be sufficient for the era that we're moving into.
So, what have we learned so far? To find the uncommon threads of success in business today, we need to understand the most common mistakes. Transformation expert Chris Majer told us that most management school theories that businesses follow today were invented by people that were born in the 1800s. The great thought leaders of that time came from the industrial era, a time when it was the goal to de-skill a larger labor force. It seems that even today, the industrial era thinking leads even the largest companies down the wrong path. The 4 basic reactions when companies are failing is 1, cost cutting, 2, reorganization, 3, deploy new tech, and 4, create a new strategy. All 4 of these do not work in the long run. Today, we live in an era of coordination, and great companies must find workers that are educated, agile, and mobile. The best companies are filled with creative, innovative problem solvers, and they become great through effective coordination with each other. When we come back from the break, we'll start to understand some common threads of failure in organizations and how it will become easier to discover the uncommon denominator.
Hi, I'm Chris Reed. I'm the creator of Reed's Ginger Brews. We use tons of fresh ginger roots, spices, fruit juices, and honey to make my ginger brews. Reed's Ginger Brews have been a top natural soda for years. People seem to love it.
I'm a huge ginger ale fan, but like,
Yeah, no, this is better because it's
this
real.
has got a kick.
Just like a pop.
The ginger is real. That's good stuff.
Try Reed's Ginger Brews. You'll never drink another ginger ale again. Cheers.
Welcome back to Uncommon Denominator on Imagination TV. Let's head right back to Steve and the master of transformation, Chris Majer.
What are the areas of change that are actually implemented when you come in?
Well, we look at 3 main variables, right? The first, and it's always the most important and the one that traditionalists don't want to get near, is you got to change the mood in the organization. But first we got to get what the mood is, right? So a mood is a predisposition for action. Okay? It's not the same thing as an emotion, right? And it's not the dreaded touchy-feely stuff, right? All human beings live in moods. It's an inescapable part of being human, right? And in most businesses today, largely because of antiquated management practices, the predominant moods are cynicism, distrust, resignation, arrogance, and a little bit of complacency.
That's a common thread?
That's a common thread.
In many organizations?
In many organizations.
And you have a way to change that?
We do, yes. Because the moods that are essential are ambition, confidence, trust, resolve. Those are the things that you want. Now, if you talk to people who've been in startup companies, right, universally they will tell you the greatest part about working in a startup company was the mood of everybody. Everybody's always ambitious, they're always confident. Nobody starts a company in resignation, right? Well, as time goes by, the organization gets bigger. The informality that we have now that works doesn't work after you get to about 100, 150 people. So now all of a sudden we have to bring in process, right? Because there's kind of 2 kinds of process. There's ones that actually help drive what we call the friction, the miscoordination, the miscommunication out of the organization. And there's those that just slow everything down. And pretty soon you've got an organization that's beautifully equipped to deal with the world as it is, right? They're very good at following the rules and taking care of the process, and then the world changes, right? And that's when things start to fall apart.
Can a company be fluid enough that as the world changes, it just automatically flows in the change with it? Is that possible?
It is possible, right? It's rare, but it's possible. And that's the business that we're in, is showing them how to do that.
In order for you to do this, what you're doing now, you had to sit back and find the right examples to ferret out things that were being done right. Did you find what was broken first, or were you finding things that were working in little places? How did it work for you?
Well, mine is I come to it in a very non-traditional way, right? So I started off in the early 80s in Seattle with a partner who was a sports psychologist. I've been a first division rugby player. He'd been a world-class skier, right?
Okay, you're both athletes.
Both athletes. Our original mission was very simple. We were going to isolate and identify the elements that led to consistently winning athletic performance. So our original client base was very narrow, athletes.
That's amazing.
Right? People who are under constant pressure to perform.
Okay.
We worked then with U.S. national teams, the national rugby team, Olympic teams, the Seattle Seahawks back in the early days, and that work caught the attention of the military. So this was never part of our business plan, but they'd read about stuff that we did, and we found ourselves at Fort Hood, Texas.
Okay.
Next thing I know, we're helping them redesign the way they train soldiers and officers. Right? And this culminated in a year-long classified project with the Special Forces, where we had a programmatic blank check to push the boundaries of human potential. Now, we got done with all that work, and I said to my guys, we have had a rare opportunity, right? We've been able to develop a body of work on human potential, human performance, that has proven to be effective with athletes and soldiers, right? Two highly competitive, edgy worlds.
Right.
I don't want to spend my whole career living out of the bachelor officer quarters training soldiers. If I'd wanted to do that, I would have enlisted, right?
Sure.
So we're going to turn our attention to the corporate world. And here what we're going to find, though, is that this game is going to be much more challenging than these other two. So we put together a little corporate program. We tested it on a little subcontractor of Boeing's way out in some obscure little town on the peninsula in the state of Washington.
How many people in the company?
300. If this works here, it's great because it'll work anywhere, because this was some gnarly little 300-person machine shop.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work here, no one will ever know.
But it was industrial based.
Right. It worked great.
Okay.
Our second client was AT&T, so we went from total obscurity to center stage.
How many people were you working with at AT&T?
Well, over the years, we worked with 40,000
Wow, okay.
people at AT&T.
All right.
Right. So
Did you do a division at a time? Or
we did.
Okay.
We did. We started with the consumer products division. We took 6,000 of their people, put them through early iteration of the work. Over the course of 48 months, they went from break even to generating $3 billion in profit for AT&T. Outside a long distance, they became the most
$3 billion
profitable
in
part.
profit, not in revenue.
Cumulative total in profit.
Wow. And how long did it take you to create this transformation? And then
It took about 24 months.
what in the world did you do with these people?
We created a miracle.
What was it? You got to tell me what the miracle was. Give me a glimpse of that miracle. Yeah.
We taught them a set of what we call universal performance principles.
Okay.
So things that we had distilled from winning athletes and militaries around the world. And it's the thing that you want to be careful of here is when I say teach, I don't mean we sat in a classroom and talked about them. We show them a new interpretation of what, let's just take one of these things, accountability means.
Okay.
So now we've all got a common language for it.
Okay.
Then the important part is you throw them into a bunch of experiences where they get to see themselves either using or not using this thing. So it really does, as we say, get into their bodies. It becomes part of who they are, not just something they think about. And that's the fundamental difference. That's what's essential about transformative work as opposed to dispensing information. So we shift who these people are, right? So they learn practices for being real high-performing teams. They learned about communication. They learned coordination.
Okay.
So they started working first on themselves, and then as the time went on, more and more into being teams and how we work as teams, and they finished up with a great big team event.
What percentage of the true results came from the dramatic mood shift?
Well, I would argue that all of it did, because absent that, nothing else is going to happen.
What can I do on a consistent basis to make sure that that mood of optimism remains?
You have two jobs.
Okay.
Number one, you're the guardian of the mood of the enterprise, and two, you're the architect of the future. Right? So your number one job is to be the guardian of the mood. You do that by honing your listening skills. So you pay attention to what are the conversations that are going on in the organization? What's the tone of those conversations? And when people start to kind of drifting away, then we go back and we look at, do we really have people lined up about the mission? Right?
Okay.
Is everybody really clear what we're trying to do? Or are they bought in on that? Because if they're not, they probably shouldn't be here.
But what you don't try to do is you don't try to be a therapist.
No, that's not your job.
And that's what people, when you have a small organization, don't they get that problem of the family thing too much?
Yeah. And that's one of the distinctions that we make for people, is there's three types of social organizations, right? Let's just assume we have a little continuum here, okay?
Hey, yeah.
Out here's the realm of teams, right?
Okay.
Inside of teams, there's three distinctions. There's a operating team, a high-performing team, and a world-class team,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And in the middle here, we have a much bigger space that we call community,
Okay.
Okay. And then down here, there's this infinite space called family.
Okay.
Now, what separates these things is what we call the horizon of time over which we tolerate non-performance and non-conformance.
Oh, yes, of course. Within a family, you'll
The
let somebody going
horizon
on.
is infinite.
Yeah.
Right?
It-
Uncle Bob may be the town drunk, you know,
Yep.
and he embarrasses us all the time, but guess what? He's still our uncle.
LeBron James suddenly can't shoot for one game. None of us are accepting that. You know, the high performance
Out here,
team. Yes.
the horizon of time is very
Immediately,
short.
yeah.
Right? So we will either get, let's leave LeBron out of it, but because
Okay.
I'm sure he'll be fine. But
Yes.
we'll get him or her some additional training or whatever they need. And if that doesn't work real quickly, they're off the team.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean we don't like them. It just means they're not in condition right now to be the contributor that we need to accomplish the mission of the team.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now then this middle ground called community, what makes a community is it has boundaries.
Okay.
Okay, that's what makes a community. So it doesn't matter how many parking tickets you get. If you keep doing it, eventually you're going to get arrested. Right?
Okay,
You miss
yeah.
enough meetings of your bridge club, they're going to kick you out of the club. You don't pay
Right.
your dues at your cigar club.
Right.
Okay.
No more cigars
You're out
for
of the
there.
club. No more cigars, dude. That's it. You're cut off. Right.
Yeah.
Communities have boundaries. Again,
Right.
family, nuh-uh. Now, where people get confused is they can't figure out which one of these things they're doing. So if you want to be in business, you need to be doing team. Right? Now,
Yes.
team doesn't mean you're cold and heartless, right?
Okay.
But at the same time, in the family, nobody gets a bad performance review. They don't get demoted. They don't get left out of the bonus pool, right? So you just need to be really clear. We're playing team, okay?
Okay.
The team has a certain set of standards that are different than family. And you can't be confused and go, well, yes, we have to operate as a team, but we want to have that family feeling. No, those don't go together.
That is the most brilliant thing I've ever heard somebody tell me.
Earlier, we learned about the common threads of failure in an organization. We are now starting to see a glimpse of the threads of successful actions which create the uncommon denominators. The actions that bring about success are: 1. Identify negative moods and change the mood of the organization. The moods you need are ambition, confidence, trust, and resolve. This shift in mood can be the biggest factor in making your business successful. 2. Bring in a little process that drives the miscommunications and friction out of the organization. 3. Learn to be prepared to adapt. We also learned that the head of an organization has 2 jobs: to be the guardian of the mood and be the architect of the future. Maybe most importantly, you need to understand the dynamic of the social organization that is your business. There are 3 types of social organization: teams, businesses are all teams; community, communities have boundaries; family, they have no boundaries. What separates them is the horizon of time that you are willing to tolerate non-performance and non-conformance. Because of this, business is always a team organization. When we return, we will talk about how your organization grows and where to expect the pitfalls.
Hi, I'm Chris Reed. I'm the creator of Reed's Ginger Brews. We use tons of fresh ginger root, spices, fruit juices, and honey to make my ginger brews. Reed's Ginger Brews have been a top natural soda for years. People seem to love it.
I'm a huge ginger ale fan, but
Yeah, no, this is better because it's
this
real.
has got a kick.
It's just like a pop.
The ginger is real. That's good stuff.
Try Reed's Ginger Brews. You'll never drink another ginger ale again. Cheers.
We know that the 4 management techniques that are from industrial, you've taught me that, and that makes, now that I know that, I know that. The other thing that I know is the mood thing. Now that I know and understand that, it makes so much sense to me.
Right, but let's be careful, because this is where everybody gets in trouble, is we confuse awareness with competence.
Yeah, okay.
So now that I, quote, know that,
Yes.
that doesn't mean you can go do anything with it. That's where you want to be careful.
Exactly.
Right. So
Exactly.
that then transitions us into a conversation about learning, or we can go back to your 5 guys and talk about how the organization grows and where the pitfalls are.
Well, I think for me, and I think our viewers, the most fascinating thing would be how those 5 guys
Okay.
go from here, and when we start building that up.
So let's watch. So you got your 5 guys. You guys got a brilliant idea. You're all really clear about the idea. You're all bought in. We're all working together around the coffee table, you know, or whatever it is, right? Okay. Now let's assume you're starting to be successful. So what happens?
Okay. Well, we would bring more people on.
Exactly.
And as we bring more people on, the culture dilutes because we have more people.
Well, it doesn't necessarily dilute because you have more people. It dilutes because the business is going to get more complex.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So more people means more interactions, more relationships, more customers, more products, more services.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So the complexity of the business goes up, and there's the moment in which the complexity of the business passes the talent density that you had with your 5 founders.
Okay. All
Okay?
right, yeah.
Now, in that space where complexity is greater than talent density,
Yeah.
that's where chaos starts to show up. Okay? So there's 2 choices. The industrial era choice is we need process. Now we need some guys who are really good at process.
Okay.
Okay? Now that will, as we said earlier, start to drive some of the really creative guys out of the organization. And that may be okay. Right? That people were around for the founding doesn't mean they have the skill set to take it to the next level. All you're doing is producing suffering by keeping people in roles that they're not competent to fulfill. They're suffering even though they don't want to admit it, and more importantly, your organization's going to suffer.
So Steve Jobs did that as he grew Apple. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay? So now then we got to look at how do we either develop the guys that we've got, all right, and they got to get it out of their heads that, well, we're the founders, we don't need any development. Yes, you do. Okay? Or how do we go get people that are more talented than the ones that we've got, and that can be threatening to your existing core, but we've got to get the talent density up.
And we're thinking process is the way to fix this, but it's not.
A little bit. We need a little bit of process.
Okay.
That's the challenge, is we
Okay.
just need a little.
Okay.
People tend to overdo it, so we go get some operations guy, an organizational guy, and he or she comes in and they got boatloads of process, and
They're
pretty soon
restructuring everything,
yeah,
right?
pretty soon you need 3 approvals to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And at that point, you're going to be grinding into irrelevance.
Okay.
You're never going to grow.
So how do you bust through the wall?
Again, minimal process, maximum talent. Talented people will find the way. What we can't do is dilute the talent density.
Okay. So you got to bring in people that can handle the larger client base, the larger revenues, the larger products,
that are used
perhaps.
to operating in that world. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. So get me some people who know how to manage in a group of 100, 150.
Chris, let's talk for a moment about capitalism from a more esoteric standpoint. What is your experience with what businesses believe it to be, and what is it truly?
Well, this is a good question, and the challenge that we've got is, unfortunately, too many guys in business have a very limited view of capitalism, where we think it's all about making as much money as you can.
Okay, that's not
Okay.
capitalism.
No,
Okay.
not the authentic version of
Okay.
it. So if you look, when we even use the word capital, what most people think of is money,
Okay.
right? Financial capital. But every organization actually has 3 types of capital, right? There is financial capital,
Sure.
and we know what that is, so we don't need to spend more time on
Okay.
that.
There's human resources. That's
Well,
type of
that's that falls under the category of pragmatic capital.
capital. Okay.
So pragmatic capital is the embodied competence of the organization, how you go about satisfying customers. That competence is embodied in the people, the equipment, the systems, the processes, and importantly, the mood
Okay.
in the organization. Then there's what we call symbolic capital, right? So this is the story that exists about you in the marketplace, as well as in a narrow slice, people think of it as brand, but it's way bigger than that.
Is it goodwill? Is it also?
It falls into that category as well.
Okay.
Okay. So how does a company get started? Well, if you're not really alert, everybody goes, "Oh, you got to have some financial capital," and you go, "No."
Today, not as much today, especially.
Well, eventually you will, but almost nobody starts with that.
Okay.
All right. Unless you got a trust fund or something, what you start with is pragmatic capital. So you've got an idea. So here's a guy right here.
All right.
He's got an idea
I'm gonna
about a
start
new
television.
TV network.
Right, okay, that's good.
So he's got pragmatic capital. He's got an idea, right?
Yes.
And then what comes next? Oh, financial capital. No. No, what comes next is symbolic capital. You've got to take your idea and craft it into a story that is compelling, right? Investors don't invest in products or services. They invest in stories.
Potential.
The potential, the story
Right.
of possibilities, all right?
Okay,
With a great story, then you can attract financial capital, and at that point, what we call the virtuous conversion cycle begins. So I take my financial capital, I convert it into pragmatic capital by hiring more people, getting some equipment, starting up my TV network. That enables me to enhance my story. So now I'm doing press releases, I've got a buzz going about me in the marketplace. That attracts more customers and investors, gets you more financial capital. It's what we call the conversion process. The process of capitalism is about your effective conversion of one type of capital into another. He who does that most effectively wins.
Okay, so we start pragmatically with the idea.
Yep.
We're starting with Imagination TV.
Right.
An idea of a television network built on the most fascinating authors and speakers and motivators in the world, and delivering that message in an inspiring, motivating, entertaining way. That's our idea. What's the second thing?
Symbolic.
Symbolic.
Okay? Now you've got to go turn that idea into a compelling narrative so that an investor can go, well, that's an interesting idea. Answer the question of how you're going to make money, how's it going to be successful,
Okay.
right? In the immediate form, it takes the form of a business plan. You attract financial capital, and then you start the conversion process. Where we've gotten in trouble, and the reason we can't get our economy going, is we've got a distorted view about capitalism being about let's make as much money as we can, plus we've gotten overly fascinated with the financial capital, not realizing that it's no more important than pragmatic capital, and there's more cash, there's more financial capital sitting on the sidelines now than there has ever been at any point in American history. Right? So the business guys have quit being capitalists and they started being kind of cautious, tenders of cash. That's not what we need. That's not going to grow the economy. You've got to be converting it. Capital, financial capital, in and of itself is useless.
When your business grows, you will need more people, which means more interactions and more complexity in your business. When complexity is greater than talent density, chaos starts to show up. It's at that time you need to bring in minor processes and need people with the skill set to implement the processes. The key to all this is listening and knowing where your organization is at every moment and being prepared to take action. As we move along, a lot of what we are discovering is based on understanding the parts of a successful organization. As an example, we have learned that there are 3 types of capital in an organization. The first one is financial capital, which is simply money. Then we have pragmatic capital, which is the idea. Then lastly, there is symbolic capital, which is the compelling narrative about you in the marketplace and in a narrow way by your brand. The machine of the business is the task of converting one kind of capital into another, and the company that does this most effectively wins. Please also remember you can go to www.myimaginationtv.com and look for the Uncommon Denominator tab on the right. There you'll find summaries of each episode. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Chris Reed. I'm the creator of Reed's Ginger Brews. We use tons of fresh ginger root, spices, fruit juices, and honey to make my ginger brews. Reed's Ginger Brews have been a top natural soda for years. People seem to love it.
I'm a huge ginger ale fan, but this
That's better because it's
is
real.
got a kick.
Just like a pop.
The ginger is real. That's good stuff.
Try Reed's Ginger Brews. You'll never drink another ginger ale again. Cheers.
What made you sit back and write the book?
Well, it was an interesting journey because for years people were pestering me to write a book. Not just participants but publishers, and I'd always resisted because one of the things we tell people is you don't actually learn anything from books. Right?
Okay, that's a very interesting comment you just made, but I think that could be true sometimes.
Well, no, because we have a different interpretation about learning. Right? Most people, and the reason most people don't learn anything is they think learning means getting aware of or understanding. You can do that from books. But in our view, as we learned a long time ago working with athletes and soldiers, learning and this is what separates us from everybody else that's out there, learning has to be seen as the development of new competence, a new capacity for action. And the only way you can learn to take new action, the only way is through practice. No amount of understanding produces competence. The only way you get competent is via practice. And that's what all of our programs do, is we put people through months of work to develop new practice so that when we're gone, the work that we've done is sustainable, it's permanent, they've made a shift. Now, as I said, what would happen to us after every program we did, didn't matter what company we're in, people would always come up and go, what have you got for my fill in the blank? You know, brother, mother, sister, father. And we would always say, nothing, because we just do corporate work. And I was being kind of noble about resisting writing a book. Well, then what happened is technology got to the point now to where my main objection to writing got obliterated. Okay, so this, yes, it's a book, but it's more, as you well know, because what it takes you to is an interactive website so that you can go and work with other people who are working their way through the book. You can do it on your own, but it's all about not so much the reading as the implementation pieces that it has you do.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's designed to take you through a 90-day process of literally changing who you are.
Yes,
okay?
exactly.
So if you really want to transform yourselves, you've got to get involved in a process that's going to build new competence. It's only by new actions that you shift who you are in the world. Again, no amount of understanding is going to do that for you, and no amount of getting fired up and motivated is going to do it.
When you say that to me, it's so obvious. And when you said it to me the first time, I struggled with you on that. And I was like, give it to me again. But it makes sense. And by the way, you guys can go to myimaginationtv.com, and the book is available. The Power to Transition, and actually they can get an ebook, which is really nice, where they can have it immediately rather than having to go to the bookstore or run out. I think the high achievers have a sense of mental toughness. They have something within them that lets them not quit. Now tell me about where that comes from, how you saw it, how you learned about it, and how you were able to quantify it.
When we talk about mental toughness, there's a couple elements to that. Right? So first of all, there's courage. Right? So you've got to be willing to step out in the first place.
Okay.
Right? You've got to step out onto the field.
Okay.
Okay. Most people don't have that. That's why you don't see a lot of people on the field, whatever the field is. Then you've got to have what we call resilience. Right? So when I'm playing rugby, first time I get hit,
do you walk off the field?
Exactly. They go, oh man, that hurt like hell. I'm not doing that again.
Okay.
All right. That's going to be a short career.
Right.
So I've got to have a sense of resilience. And then importantly, it's what am I committed to? Because in the end, that's the thing that trumps everything. My commitment to whatever it is I've set out to do has got to trump my inner whiner, because that's the thing that we're fighting against. It's like, oh, it's too hard. I can't do it. It's taking too long. It's like that little yammering guy inside your head. Everybody's got one of those. And part of what we do in this book is we show you how to shift that. You don't have to be stuck with that little inner whiner your whole life.
Okay.
You can shift who he or she is.
Share with us something that we can do to move that direction, to begin building that. Is there a first step we can take? And we can just work from there, and then we'll look at the book, we'll read the book, but is there a step we can take now that we can begin today?
Well, yes, and you hear my hesitancy here.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I know.
what we want to be careful of is dispensing kind of trivial tips and techniques, because there's too much of that out there.
I know,
okay?
but I do want to give people the ability to take some form of action today.
All right, so the fundamental practice that we teach everybody, and I do mean everybody, from corporate executives to rugby players to special forces operators, they all learn the same fundamental practice that we call centering. Okay? Centering is the process of being present in the moment, open physiologically and psychologically and emotionally and connected. If I can learn to just take a big deep breath in the belly, let it out, let my shoulders kind of come down a little bit. Just do that a couple, 3 times, and just notice my world just got a little different. Right? Not dramatic, but subtly, my world got a little different. Right? Now, if I can learn to do that every time I find myself starting to do that, life is going to get a little different.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really good.
Right?
It's really good, yeah.
Right? So when I'm finding myself having that tough conversation at work, my shoulders go up,
Yeah.
right? My throat gets tight, my jaw gets clenched.
We know what's happening. Yeah.
Let it all go. I go and talk to groups all over the world.
Right.
Okay. What people don't see is before I go on stage, I'll get backstage, I'll do a couple breathing practices. There's a couple other what we call somatic, mind-body practices that I do. People look at me going, "What the hell's he doing?" He's getting present in the moment. He's getting his body. He's getting in his body. He's getting ready. Because it doesn't matter how many times you do it.
You still get tense.
Yeah.
You still get nervous.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
So, and that doesn't help. So
yeah.
I work and I just get myself centered.
Yeah.
And off we go.
Your book, The Power to Transform, it's extraordinary. I read it a couple times. Once again, the best thing about it is it constantly throughout the book makes you take action. And once again, instead of just getting knowledge, memorizing something, by taking that action, we begin to embed in ourselves the things that we're learning become stuff that we're competent about. Appreciate your time today. Talking to us, sharing with us about this amazing career you've had. And I'm going to be coming back to you as we move forward with the Uncommon Denominator.
Look forward to it.
And I'm going to be picking your brain as I look at something and listen, I need you to give me a new paradigm shift on how to view it. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Really appreciate it.
So there we have it, our first episode of Uncommon Denominator. We would like to thank Chris Majer for talking with us today. To see a full wrap and breakdown of today's episode, go to www.myimaginationtv.com and look for the Uncommon Denominator tab on the right. I will leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Napoleon Hill: "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, you can achieve." For Steve Stambliss and the crew, I'm Tammy Harrison. We will see you next time on Uncommon Denominator. Cheerio.